This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. As ever, this is actually episode 3, but because we called the first episode 0, that basically after a couple of weeks we will stop saying that because there's no need and people will likely not even care anyway. However, welcome to the episode. My name is Tom and today I'm joined as ever by Rob.
Hey guys.
And we have one of the other members of the Dreamcast Junkyard team joining us for his debut on the DreamPod, and it's Gaz, who writes on the site as Lost Ruin. Hello, Gaz.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks for joining us. I must say your voice is extremely clear and silky with that nice headset you're wearing.
Lovely. I'm just glad it worked on my ancient PC. And then again, I could just pop around the corner and grab it from the coffee machine if I need a spare backup. So.
Is that the coffee machine that is run by Windows? Yeah,
the coffee machine that's run by Windows. Unbelievable. I just started jobbing in a garage and I opened the coffee machine to fill it up with coffee and it's powered by Windows. Can you believe it? Which Brilliant. Is probably more powerful than the PC I'm on right now. So.
Yeah, so if your PC starts like mucking up, you can just nip round to the petrol station and plug your headset into the coffee machine, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Quality. Okay, quick introduction to who's on the podcast, on the DreamPod this episode. Guys, as is the norm, just wanting to quickly run around and not literally run around, but just run through the team and see if you guys have been playing anything on your Dreamcast or acquired any new Dreamcast games since the last time we were together. Rob?
I've been playing Mobile Suit Gundam Federation vs. Xeon DX, which is a third-person hack and slash, sort of like Mech Warrior, sort of an Eastern Mech Warrior, third-person shooter cum slasher.
Yeah. Where
you can choose from a selection of Gundams, the battle mechs, and you sort of romp around these relatively bland battlefields. Well, there's some things in them. There's buildings. They're pretty varied actually. It goes from like the desert to sort of like mobile military bases and things like that, and you sort of fight other mechs essentially. Yeah, it's good fun. The action's sort of it's pretty visceral actually. I mean, you can switch very quickly between range combat and then sort of close quarters combat. I mean, not all of the mechs are the same. They sort of vary in terms of the weaponry they've got, but if you stick with a couple of the standard mechs, then you get sort of like the typical laser sword sort of lightsaber for up close.
Yeah.
And then at distance you've got things like machine guns, rocket launchers, shell launchers. Yeah, and it's pretty good fun, to be honest. It's a rip copy. It's in Japanese, but again, it's one of those games, we were talking about this the other week, that's actually really quite accessible if you don't know any Japanese.
Right.
Look, I know a bit of Japanese, but
Konnichiwa. Yeah.
Konnichiwa indeed. But you can totally play this game without knowing anything, and it's very smooth, specifically if you look up online and you find out exactly what the options are you to play. So it's actually got a lot of different game modes, but it's something you can just put in and stick it on arcade mode and you can have a blast with it.
Brilliant. Is it quite similar to something like Virtual On then? Or more like simulation-based version of Virtual On?
It's simulation in terms of, I mean, it's a very fast-moving, the rounds will last about, I don't know, 3 minutes at most. I mean, you can cruise through them pretty quickly. It's not heavily tactical. You've literally you automatically lock on to any enemy that you come remotely in close quarters with, and then it's choose your weaponry, choose how you're going to attack it. You can sort of fly, all the most of the mechs have sort of jet thrusters, so you can sort of hover, let's say, or sort of hover for a period of time, and that sort of depletes as you use it. But it's pretty varied. It's pretty fun,
That sounds pretty interesting. I don't think I've heard of that one. What about you guys? Have you been playing anything?
Well, I've got my Dreamcast set up. bit of Crazy Taxi, I think. But I've been playing loads of NES stuff on it. I've got a nested DC disc.
That's the emulator disc, yeah.
Yeah, and pretty much it's got every single NES release and then a few extras as well.
That's one of the things I love about the Dreamcast because it's so like versatile. There's so many different emulators and collections that you can get. It's fantastic. I mean,
well, yeah, it's brilliant. I've been playing a bit of Donkey Kong. I mean, I gave my NES away up to you, Tom, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I gave my NES away in a few games. I thought, well, I found the disc a little while back, and I thought, brilliant! I'll go and play a bit of Donkey Kong and a bit of Mario, and without having to. And it saves a bit of money as well because I've never been really big into Nintendo. But I own every Nintendo game courtesy of this disc, which is brilliant. But apart from that, I've mainly been playing on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Destiny, it's taken over my life.
Oh yeah, so I saw something about that on Twitter. You and somebody else playing Destiny. I've not played that myself.
Lee, Gunstar Hero.
Yeah, I've acquired quite a few games. I've not really played them because I've been moving in the last week, so I've not actually had the chance to get the Dreamcast set up yet and sit through and play some of these games. But I have added quite a few to my collection since we last spoke. Mainly thanks to a guy whose videos I've featured quite a bit on the main site. He's a guy called PC Wizard. That's his like sort of online persona. He did the games that never were videos that I published on the Dreamcast Junkyard main site. He obviously, because he lives in America, he has got easy access to a lot of NTSCU games that are like 10 a penny on eBay US, but really expensive on eBay UK. So if there's anything that, I'm not using him as like a sort of a mule to get me.
That's what it sounds like.
I know.
Say.
It's kind of exclusively because I send him like PAL games that he can't get. And then he sends me NTSC games that I can't get. So
that's cool. Yeah,
I've got visions of him now getting strip search at the border for any DC games.
Full cavity search for jewel cases.
You found a jewel case where?
No, so thanks to him, he sent me all of the NFL games. He sent me NFL 2K, 2K1, 2K2, and the college football game, which is NCAA 2K2. So thanks to him for those. He also sent me Matt Hoffman's BMX, which is kind of like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but you're on a BMX. It uses the same engine as well, incidentally, and it's by the same developer, I believe.
Did that not get a release? Because Dave Mirra was on the PAL version, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Dave Mirra and Matt Hoffman. The two totally separate games,
but
Matt Hoffman never got released in the UK for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Probably because nobody knows who he was. To be honest, I don't know who Dave Mirra is, other than
Dave
the game.
Mirra was considered the best BMX rider in the world.
Matt Hoffman may have something to say about that, but.
Dave Mirra always used to win at the X Games.
Oh, did he? Oh.
Yeah. He's Matt Hoffman, don't get me wrong, he's brilliant. I mean, I used to watch the X Games for Tony Hawk and things like that. But yeah, Dave Mirra is a beast.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough. You learn something every day. Apart from those games, he also sent me a burnt copy of Toe Jam and Earl 3.
Yeah.
Which allowed me to play this game for the first time, and it's actually really good. It's very reminiscent of the Mega Drive original, but obviously in 3D.
Yeah. It got released, what was it, on the Xbox, wasn't it? The original Xbox.
That's right, yeah. We did touch on this on the last episode. It got sort of cancelled mid-development for the Dreamcast.
I assume, yeah.
The last games I've got from a shop quite local to me, there's a chain of shops called Planet Games, and there's one near me where allegedly, well, it's not allegedly, it happened, a Dreamcast collector went in and took his entire collection and just kind of traded it in or sold it or something. And a couple of people mentioned this to me, and Katsu from Retro Collect also mentioned. So I thought, right, I'm going to go down and have a look. And lo and behold, there was just a massive amount of stuff in there, Dreamcast PAL stuff, in mint condition, really reasonably priced. So yesterday, in fact, I picked up JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Capcom vs SNK, and Sonic Shuffle. Even though we talk about Sonic Shuffle on the last one about how bad it is, for £10 for the PAL
bargain, yeah, bargain.
That's a bargain.
Yeah. In mint condition, condition shuffle, yeah. That makes all the difference.
We're talking about games we've picked up recently. I mean, at the moment I'm collecting Resident Evil games, Grand Theft Auto games, and Final Fantasy games. I've just picked up the Japanese version of Code Veronica, with the red case on it. Yeah, I got it from a guy I know in Japan.
Yeah, it looks like a leatherette kind of case.
Yeah, it's plastic, but it looks grand. Yeah, but it's in great condition. It was £8 posted, so he sent that to me from Japan, so that's kind of cool.
That's a bargain.
That's the only thing I've bought recently on the Dreamcast.
Does the game differ anything anyway, or is it just that packaging?
I think it's just the packaging, really. I'm not entirely sure, to be fair, because I've not played it, not played that version yet. I've not actually got a Japanese Dreamcast. It's just got it for the Resident Evil collection. I've got a boot disc, which Tom gave me at Blackpool last year, I think it was, wasn't it? I think.
God, you've got good memory, actually.
I've lost it somewhere. It's around the house somewhere. As soon as I find it, I can obviously test it out and see what's going on. But
I'll bring you another one next week if you want.
Oh, brilliant. There you go, then.
Great. Okay, guys, let's move on to the familiar news section. This time I wanted to just really focus on some of the upcoming Dreamcast games that are coming out because, as we all know, it's not a completely dead system. There are a couple of different developers and publishers who are putting out new stuff for the Dreamcast, and it's quite exciting really because a lot of the stuff is spanning different genres. So we've got two games from a publisher stroke developer called Goat Store, and they are putting out Hypertension and Slave. Have you guys seen either of these two games?
Yeah, well, I've seen them in that I've seen the trailers released for them, and I've read a bit of information. And normally it's Retro Collect actually that lets me know about this. Yeah, both of them look interesting. Well, for a start, I'd like to say that it's cool that we're getting new games that aren't shoot 'em ups.
Yeah.
That is good because some of these new shoot 'em ups that are coming out on the system, they are great. Don't get me wrong; they're really super. But it is nice that people are sort of branching out with this homebrew stuff. Yeah, Slave and Hypertension, both of them, I think, are running on the isn't the Advanced Doom engine?
Yeah,
but they couldn't look more different. You can see that both of them are totally indebted to Doom, but the aesthetic of them is it couldn't be more different. I don't know. They both look really cool. I think Slave would be my pick. There seems to be a purity in that appeals to me. Specifically as well, the soundtrack seems really good as well.
Yeah.
When you're in one of those frantic old school shoot 'em ups where you've got just wave after wave after wave of enemies coming at you all the time, if you've got an absolutely banging soundtrack, it just works perfectly.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, again, looking at Slave, when they initially announced it, they described it as a mixture of Doom and Robotron, which I can kind of totally agree with because it does look, with the neon graphics and the banging soundtrack and the way that there's just enemies coming at you from all directions, it looks so cool. But then as a complete sort of juxtaposition, nice word, you've got something like Hypertension, which from what I can tell is like a story-driven, not a Doom clone, but it's more sort of set in like reality where you've got realistic weapons like axes and shotguns, etc., and you're shooting zombies and the like. And again, it's more story driven than Slave, which is basically just a high score shoot 'em up.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. With Slave, you put your headphones in and it's bang 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 bang. It's sort of like a neon rush. Hypertension, slower paced, as you say. There's a bit more with the story. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there is going to be sections of that game where you're suddenly ambushed by a lot of demons or a lot of things from some Lovecraftian novel. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they are completely different in pace as well as aesthetic.
Another one that looks quite interesting, even though there's not really been a lot announced about it yet, is one called Amoeba. This is another one that I mentioned on the main site a few months ago. I don't know if either of you guys saw that.
Yeah, I saw your post and I've been to the site. I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the developer at all. Who's the developer with this one?
It's Retro Sumas. They're a Spanish developer. And a couple of guys who are working on this game, they worked on Pia Solar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Watermelon, yeah.
Yes, so this game is going to be like more like a visual novel type game where it's like pre-rendered images and text-based, and like one of those choose-your-own-adventure books where you get to the end of the chapter.
Yeah, I love them things.
Yes. As the developer said, I was speaking to him via email quite recently, and he was saying that because the visual novel is more of a mainstay of like Japanese gaming, he wanted to create something that was had more of a European like feel.
Okay.
And I mean, I can see there's obviously a massive gap in the market.
It sounds something similar to along the lines of what Telltale are doing with Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us and things like that. I mean, they're kind of graphic novel kind of cel-shaded kind of games, aren't they? So
yeah, that's an interesting. That's a good point.
And they are. I mean, Walking Dead was one game of the year, didn't it? So, and a hugely popular game. So
yeah, I definitely think there's a market for this kind of game. So yeah, that's Amoeba from Retro Sumas. I hope I'm saying that right. Possibly the biggest one, and one we've mentioned again quite a lot on the site and on the previous episodes of the podcast, is Elysian Shadows from Elysian Shadows team and Falco Gurkis. Again, I mean, there's been so much written and said about this game, but if you look at the videos and look at the gameplay footage of it, it looks so impressive. It looks like a SNES game, but with like really up to date like lighting effects and like all the NPCs that you meet have all got something to say and they've all got independent lives that are going on. It's such an ambitious game. It's just it's not a shame, but if this kind of thing had existed, this kind of effort had existed back when the Dreamcast was actually contemporary, you know, how different could it have been? I mean, I know you've got things like Shenmue, but I don't know, what do you guys think about Elysian Shadows, if anything?
I mean, it's one of them things, isn't it? It's a shame that people are making these games 20 years after the... Well, sorry.
The ice cream van in the background there.
It is, yeah, it's going... It's going to get quite loud in a minute. I might just run out and go have an ice cream. It's probably got Windows-powered ice cream. But yeah, it's just a shame that people are making these games, 15, 16 years after the console was released. I mean, imagine what it had been like if these games were being made at the time.
Yeah, imagine if Sega had like a more of an open door kind of policy with the Dreamcast and said, you know what? You know how like with the PS4 and the Xbox One now, where you've got all these indie developers like on board in an official capacity. If Sega had gone, here you go, there's a dev kit,
make a game. Yeah, just make a game. Yeah.
I think that would have been amazing. I think it's slightly unfair to sort of beat them with that stick now, because obviously now the whole indie market has come of age and there's the mechanisms in place for indie developers to sell their games through official stores. Back then, that was like heresy, you know. No console did that when the Dreamcast was released. And while it would have been amazing, I couldn't see how they could actually get it onto the system. It could have made a massive difference. I mean, Sega seemed to gamble so much with the Dreamcast. It was like the last throw of the dice that why not? Maybe they should have done. Maybe they should have opened the doors wide open and gone, anything's welcome. Anything that could possibly get on our system that can make us some money. I don't know. I mean, you'd probably get a lot of dirge, though.
I think as well, I mean, I know you could go online with the Dreamcast. If that was properly marketed and people were actually online, I think it made a hell of a difference as well. I mean, because it was back in the days when nobody went online, did they? If you wanted to play multiplayer, you went round to your mate's house, didn't you? So...
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, he's going around the corner.
I think the thing with Elysian Shadows that impresses me most, I think it's what you've just said something similar, Tom, is that it's clearly this love letter to those SNES JRPGs, but crucially, they've actually evolved that format. You know, that form of game seems to have been evolved here with Elysian Shadows. They're not just recreating Secret of Mana. You know, they are changing it. They're making it better. The engine's better. The lighting's better. As you say with the NPCs, instead of having a couple of them who would say something of importance and then basically a load of statues or robots that said nothing or maybe very little thing. Now everyone's got something to say. So I think it'll be. I think that's really impressive that they're not sort of sitting on it and go, well, this was popular 20 years ago, so I'm sure it'll be popular again. I think that they've got to resell it to the modern gamer, really.
Which could potentially be a bit of a problem because the modern gamer wants to play your Call of Duty, your Halo, and things like that. I mean, it's kind of hard. I know it's going to appeal to obviously people who from that generation who played the RPGs, and that it'll be a tough sell for the modern gamer, I would have thought.
Yeah, and there's one other game as well which HuCast has recently announced. Well, they've not announced what it is as of yet, as far as I know, but they have been teasing that they're working on a secret project. So whether that's just going to be another shooter or what, I don't know. But
well, stay tuned. I'm sure we'll bring you news when it comes.
Yeah. So plenty to look forward to coming on the Dreamcast. You know, new games coming out. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, this is sort of a group discussion. We thought this week we'd look at games on the Dreamcast which were cancelled before and they were never released that we think were most interesting or had sort of the most potential to be great games. We've got a list here. It's not definitive, but it's got some real good ones on. We've got Colin McRae 2.0, Take the Bullet, Picasso, Midnight GT, Outcast, and Black and White.
Yeah, it's a good list, and it covers a lot, a lot of different genres. Should we just sort of work down the list then and speak about each one in turn? Yeah,
let's do that.
Colin McRae, how hugely popular that was when it was released. I mean, Codemasters, the kings of racing games. I mean, they do what Grid now, Formula One games. Kings. I mean, it was obviously a PlayStation release, wasn't it? The Colin McRae 2.0, and that's what I think the Dreamcast needed. It needed it. I mean, we've got some decent racing games like Metropolis Street Racer, which went on to be hugely popular as PGR on the Xbox.
Yeah.
But I mean, a decent rally game. I mean, they've got Sega Rally 2, but it's not a patch on the original Sega Rally, unfortunately.
No,
it's nicely playable. But Colin McRae would have been a great release.
It's a really strange story, actually, the story of Colin McRae 2 on the Dreamcast. Basically, as far as I know, it wasn't a direct port of the PlayStation version. It was a slightly enhanced version of the PC game with added things like real-time reflections and different lighting effects and all this kind of thing. But it was almost complete, and then it just kind of got pulled from the release lists. And by all accounts, I mean, I don't know how true this is. I mean, I've read this on, I think it was on an Assembler forum, Assembler Games forum, that there is actually a playable build of the game. It's almost complete. It's actually in the hands of a private collector who won't release it.
Wow.
So, I mean, Rob, I don't know, have you seen anything of this?
No, I'm afraid I haven't. This story is completely new to me. That sounds amazing. I've not heard of something like that before, where a private collector has bought out one of these abandonware and then essentially, not held it hostage, but refuses to let it into the public domain. I
mean, again, I will say I don't know how true that is. So, but this is just something I read.
Well, I mean, if he's bought it as an asset to maybe sell by not releasing it, it's going to be worth a lot more than it would be if he released it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it just depends what mindset he's in.
Yeah, I mean, somebody listening to this might know more about this or have more accurate information than we do here with our
and
endless
if you do, by all
speculation.
means, get in touch. Let us know on the site or on the Facebook page.
Definitely.
We want to know if you know anything.
The next one on the list is Take the Bullet. Either of you two know anything about this one?
No, never heard of that one, unfortunately.
Interesting. This one was quite similar to the way that Colin McRae 2 is in the hands of a private collector. I believe there is another version of this that's in the hands of a collector. And what Take the Bullet was a game by a studio called, I think they were called Red Lemon, and it was a first-person shoot 'em up, which allowed you to actually use the light gun, so you could walk around the stages with the joystick, the analog stick of the pad, and then you could use the Dreamcast light gun to shoot things on the screen.
That immediately sounds two controls at once. It sounds awkward straight away, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It sounds a bit like Survivor as well, Gun Survivor on the PS1, Resident Evil Gun Survivor, yeah. But I mean, it does show there are various images of this game running like all around the internet. I remember seeing it in like official Dreamcast magazine like years ago, and thinking it looked really, really interesting. Kind of like a mixture between, it almost has like a Max Payne style look to it, of the characters and the world that you inhabit. It's all like tenement blocks and nicely designed interiors with like coffee tables and whatnot. So Take the Bullet, that was another one that kind of just vanished. And then,
I mean, who was it? Rev Lemon? Do we know of any games that they've made before?
Red Lemon, I don't think
never
they actually
heard of them.
No, I don't think they worked on anything else. I think it was literally just that. I mean, I might be wrong again. If I am, then please, anyone listening, let us know. Okay, moving on. The next one is a game called Picasso. You guys heard of this one?
No,
I'm afraid I haven't.
No, it's crazy.
To be honest, the only reason I know about so many of these is because I'm an absolute geek who just looks into like every single like little tiny facet of the Dreamcast. Picasso is a game by a studio called Promethean Designs, and it was going to be an exclusive, but was then went multi-format and that was then subsequently cancelled. And the game had you playing as a cat burglar who would have to break into like museums and things and steal works of art without being detected by like the night watchman or
a sneaky game then, stealthy game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's basically like Metal Gear, but you're not trying to prevent the world from being destroyed. You're actually just trying to steal some artwork.
Cool.
I think I'm gonna. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to say if it was a stealth game when it was being released, I only considered the original Thief games and maybe Metal Gear as like had half decent stealth mechanics. More often than not, when I played a game lists around 2000 or before 2000 that wanted to be sneaky, often the mechanics let it down. I just get incredibly frustrated incredibly fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that would have killed it.
Yeah, I mean the images that you can find on the internet, there are quite a few floating around if you just do a Google image search. I even put some up on the Facebook page the other day. They do show off quite an impressive lighting engine. So you've got a lot of shadows and a lot of light, and you can see how it would be. You remember on the original Splinter Cell where you could hide bodies and stuff in the darkness? And
yeah, I do. Yeah,
it looks a bit like that. It's a third-person game, nice graphics, but like you say, Rob, I don't know how well that would have been realised in that era, really.
Yeah, I know. You say with Splinter Cell, I think it was Chaos Theory. I think that's one of the first times where I can remember playing a console game where in multiplayer as well online, where I went, yeah, this is really fun. The stealth mechanics actually work, especially online. You had sort of a mode where it was like one of you was playing as the chap, the chap in the suit. I forget.
Oh, Sam Fisher.
Sam Fisher. There you go. Nice bland name.
Well done, mate.
So one of you plays as Sam Fisher, and then a group of the others has to play as the soldiers. And when literally in that game, if you didn't move and you were in the shadows, if you were playing as the soldiers, it was almost impossible to see them. And it was sort of a really, really well executed mechanic that even worked in multiplayer. It was genuinely empowering to be Sam Fisher, and it was genuinely a bit spooky to be one of the guards, because you never really knew where he was unless he was in broad daylight or running, or firing a gun.
Yeah, that sounds quite cool, actually. Imagine being sort of crouched down in the shadows and the guy just walking past and you're like, oh, he's going to get me, he's going to see me.
That was it. That was what it was like. Honestly, I played both sides, and if you played as Sam Fisher, there was nothing more satisfying than watching another human being literally walk straight past you and then you ambush him.
Oh, something about that that's really gets you tingles up on your spine,
But my point is that before Chaos Theory, I can't think of a multiplayer game that did it. And again, before Chaos Theory, all I'm drawn to is the original Thief and the Metal Gear franchise, which again are both single-player games at the time.
Yeah. So that was Picasso. Again, like I say, it was quietly cancelled. Nobody really noticed apart from people like me. Next one on the list is a game called Midnight GT, which was a racing game. It did actually come out on the PC, this one. I think it came on the PS2 as well. But it's the Dreamcast version, which obviously we're most interested in. As the name suggests, it's a racing game in which all the races take place at night, not necessarily midnight. I'm not entirely sure. But again, you can find there's very little information on the Dreamcast version online. There's a couple of previews from IGN from 99, 2000, but that's about it.
I think I played this on the PC.
Yeah, I'm sure I've played it at some point. Yeah,
I seem to remember it was just pretty bog average.
Yeah.
I mean, the nighttime aesthetic was nice, but I can't remember it being anything special at all. And we discussed this the other week. Races on the Dream. There's a lot of races on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
It's got to be damn good, basically, to make an impact. And I don't think this would have.
No, certainly not an impact that Colin McRae 2.0 would have done.
That's true. Yeah,
sure. I think that would have been a big impact, wouldn't it? Especially with a huge developer like Codemasters.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of stands out for me is that even though the game's called Midnight GT and all the races they take place at night, there doesn't appear to be any real-time lighting in the game. So that kind of, I mean, obviously the game wasn't complete, and I don't know does the PC version have real-time headlights or anything like that?
I can't remember.
Yeah, probably been a while.
Yeah, so that would have been a bit of an own goal if they had released it and didn't have something as fundamental as headlights. Anyway, getting off topic. The next one is a game called... These last two actually on the list are games that did actually come out on the PC, and because of the Dreamcast's reliance on the Windows CE and all that kind of malarkey, these games were promised and were said to be really easy to port, but yeah, they never came out. One of which is a game called Outcast, in which you play a guy with an amazing name. I think it's something ridiculous like Cutter or something like that. It's
Cutter Slade.
Yes, I thought it was. Yeah.
Nice.
and don't you go into like an alternative universe or something? And
yeah,
have you played this, Rob?
I have. I've got to say that this was one of my favorite. I played it on PC, and this was. I love this game. I absolutely loved it when it came out. It literally blew my mind for a variety of reasons, and I think out of all of this list, along with Colin McRae, this was the game that I think on that list that would have made a serious difference on the Dreamcast. I mean, the scope. It's a very interesting game for many reasons. First of all, is that the game used a voxel graphics engine.
Yeah.
Voxel graphics engines tended to be used at the time on flight simulators because, I mean, and I'm not a super tech guy, but with voxels, essentially, it's easier for them to be rendered so you can have bigger landscapes, which something like a flight simulator is ideal. The problem with them is that they, up close, they look worse. So they're much more
jagged. Too chunky. Looks too chunky, doesn't it? Yeah. Yep.
Jagged edges, very chunky. But this game, when I can't. You're going to have to look it up. But I can remember seeing a video for it, like a demo video for it. And as soon as I saw the water in this game, it was one of the first games where, and this sounds very nerdy, but the water was just amazing. It looked absolutely. It's the best looking water I'd ever seen. And I saw this alien world. Yeah, you play this chap called Cutter Slade who gets transported to this other world, and when you're there, there's various different realms essentially of the world, and they're all connected with portals.
Right.
And it's a bit like Stargate. Did any of you see Stargate, the TV show?
Yeah.
No, I saw the movie. I love the movie. The movie's fantastic. I love it. It's brilliant. Never really got into the series, but yeah, carry on.
Well, imagine those sort of portals from Stargate and how they go through them. That's how you progress through this world, and it's a third-person action shooter, but the characters like the typical American, not Indiana Jones, a bit of Indiana Jones, sort of, a bit of a rogue, a bit of a wisecracking American action hero with a name like Cutter Slade. It just works perfectly, doesn't it? And he's really sarcastic, and he's like, why am I here? All of my gear's lost. Oh no! And then he gets drawn into the politics of this world, and I won't go into it, but it's a detailed politics, factions, war. It's an open world. It's open world hub game, not open world like GTA today, but as I said, the different realms of this world are all accessible like a hub world, going through portals. And the musical score, again, this, along with the water, this blew me away. This is the first time I can remember a serious musical score coming with the game. This was the score comes from the Moscow Symphony Orchestra.
What, on a separate disc?
No. Within the game,
right.
I can remember that I love the score. So it's sort of very orchestral, very. Do you know, like Lord of the Rings has really sweeping orchestral music.
Yeah.
Very like that, and you've got this wonderful alien landscape. You've got this amazing score by the Moscow Symphony Orchestra, and the whole with the graphics, even the voxels. The water sold it for you. You could travel. You can get on. You can ride sort of. What are they called in Star Wars? The Tauntauns, are they? Are those the?
Are those these like dinosaur type things that are in a lot of the screenshots?
Yeah. I'm not looking at them now, but yeah, I think that they're like bipedal, like large dinosaur chicken things, bit like Tauntauns. But that's the point. You could get on those and you could ride them, and the large landscapes gave you this amazing feeling of freedom.
I think I would have liked to have seen how well the game kind of scaled onto the Dreamcast, because I would imagine you'd need a fairly powerful PC to play it at the time, because the draw distances were pretty phenomenal. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I remember I really had to push my system to run it, and I couldn't run it anywhere near its top resolution at the time, which I don't think was very high. I think it was like 800 by 600 max resolution.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly demanding, because that was the other thing with voxels. And again, I'm not a tech guy, so someone might say I'm talking a load of BS here, but the thing with voxels is I seem to remember they were far more dependent on just the CPU power,
right?
Not the GPU. So it was a lot more difficult and put more strain on your PC. So I'm not sure if they would have been able to port it smoothly to the Dreamcast, and it could have been a flagship game. It looked, if you just look at screenshots or if you see it running and then cast your mind back to the time of the Dreamcast, it was one of those games that I felt could definitely have gone, yeah, this is the reason why you need a Dreamcast.
The last game on this list is another one that's quite well known, as I said before, another PC game, which is Black and White, which is a favorite of PC gamers, and is like the ultimate god game, really. I must admit I've never actually played this game, but I know a lot about its legacy and how like loved it is amongst the PC gaming sort of fraternity. Has either of you two played this?
Yes.
I've never played it, but I do know of the game.
Did you say you had played it, Rob?
Yes. Again, This is another one. Again, a bit of a PC stage at this time, and this was another one. And the fact that it came from Peter Molyneux, who, let's forget about indiscretions over the past couple of years and bad
or the last couple of weeks even
even the last couple of weeks, if you cast your mind back, this is before 22 cans and well before 22 cans, and it was a Peter Molyneux game. I think PC fans have such a love for it because I think it was the one time that Molyneux got it right. It was a very buggy game, I remember, on release, and it needed to be patched. And some of the bugs were very infuriating, like game-breaking bugs. You'd spend, I don't know, maybe over an hour and a half in one of the game's levels, and then at the end, one of the key mechanisms that you'd need to actuate to finish the level would break, and there was no way for you to circumvent it. And I can remember getting incredibly annoyed. It was not one of these games where you could just pick it up and quickly get back to that same spot. The scope of it was great. Again, you've got like various, I don't know how to describe it. The levels weren't huge, but it's a god game. So you've got your own personification of a god, which was one of a variety of animals, essentially.
Yeah.
That got bigger and more powerful as your civilization got bigger and more powerful. But it had a sort of it had a typical English Molyneux-style charm and humour that you'd get in the Fable series that went on to be so successful. But I think this was pre-Fable. Someone might shout at me for getting that wrong.
Yeah, no, I think it was. Yeah, I don't know.
I think this came certainly before the first one. I think this came out before the first one, or around about the same time, and it demonstrated that sort of English charm and wit and humour with a really solid god game that was visually very appealing. I don't know. Again, it was quite complicated. You had to draw out, you had to cast spells, and you were building things, and I don't know if it would have translated to the Dreamcast pad. I haven't really thought about it.
Just to clarify, Black and White came out in 2001, and the first Fable game came out in 2004.
So that's exactly what he went to work. He must have literally done Black and White. I don't think Black and White 2 was Molyneux as the head. Maybe he oversaw it or something from a distance. But the original Black and White was headed up by Molyneux, so he must have immediately gone on to do Fable. And if you've played any of the Fable games, it has that sense of that weird, quirky sense of humour to it. But
almost kind of like Monty Python-esque.
It is very really. Monty Python-esque. Yeah, I think Molyneux must have been a big fan of Monty Python because in most of his games, the humour is very similar.
Guys, are there any other games that you can think of off the top of your head that were cancelled that look really promising? Obviously, we had things like Half-Life. But that,
Half-Life is the big one that jumps out, isn't it?
Yeah, I did what you. It was actually after reading something when you experimented, Tom, with the ripped copy. I did the same thing, and I had a go on that, and I was like, I don't know why this wasn't released. I mean, it was. I remember. Sorry to sidetrack. I remember hearing Gary Whitta, who's now a screenwriter, but when Half-Life was originally released, he was editor of PC Gamer, the UK edition, and he tells a story where he remembers the people developing Half-Life come up to him, the editor, and they're like, we want to have our game on the cover of PC Gamer, and he's like, Half-Life? Who the hell? What the hell is that? Who the hell are you? You ain't getting anywhere near the cover.
Now get out of my office.
Get out of my office. Yeah, basically, I think that was it.
Yep.
And you can understand that reaction when no one else had seen the game running, but everyone had seen how good Half-Life was. So it boggles my mind that a game that to that extent of completion was dropped. It's madness. I know, but then again, we are kings of the speculation here. We don't really know what happens, but it boggles my mind that didn't get released.
Interestingly, on that subject as well, have you seen that mod for Half-Life which enables the PC version to look like the Dreamcast version?
Really?
What?
It's like a Dreamcast version mod for PC Half-Life.
So what does it just downsample everything?
Well, it makes I think the character models are slightly better in the Dreamcast version. Like the characters have like fingers and hands and stuff, and some of the weapons are changed. I'm not entirely sure that's exactly what it does, but that's what I believe it does. It just adds a few extras and takes a few things away as well. Again, I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but. So yeah, interesting subjects. I love anything to do with like cancelled games or betas that never came out. It just really fascinates me because it's a nice little peek into what could have been.
It's unfortunate. A few blockbuster games could have made a hell of a difference.
Yeah, totally.
The only other one that I thought could have been cool was System Shock 2. Again, though, that's technically a shooter, but you've got. I seem to remember on the PC, you've got an inventory system. And you're switching things around, and I think, well, that's fine with a mouse and keyboard, but what happens when you pick up the Dreamcast controller? So,
yeah, but then again, the Dreamcast had a mouse and a keyboard as well, so it might have been fine.
I suppose, they could have made it work with them. We'll never know.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we've rambled on more than enough about cancelled games and PC games and coffee machines and ice cream vans. So I think what we'll do is we'll draw a line under it now, unless there's anything else that anybody else wants to mention. Deathly silence.
No, apart from my dog's whinging, so I'm going to have to run him out anyway. So.
Cool. Thank you again, Rob and Gaz, for joining Tom, on this episode of DreamPod.
So I was going to say it was about time I joined
it was about time you made your debut on the third episode. A couple of the guys couldn't be here with us today. Caleb and Xander obviously live on a different continent, so the time difference. And Aaron is enjoying a nice Sunday roast, I believe. And Barry is, again, he's just far too busy with Sega bits, taking over the world. So if you wanted to follow us on Twitter, you can find the Junkyard at Sega Junkyard. And you can also find us on Facebook at, it's www.facebook.com/the Dreamcast Junkyard. And we also have a group, which you can find through that page. And of course, we have the main website, which is www.thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. Rob, you're on Twitter, and your Twitter handle is
at @rNicholasJ. That's at @rNicholasJ.
And Gaz, you are on Twitter at
Lost Ruin, all one word.
And I'm on Twitter at Tom Lacey. That'll do for us, and thanks very much for listening. Bye.
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 Please stop this disc now.